So good evening. In the last lecture, we were studying about the ID3 algorithm. We had started the discussion on it, and we ended the lecture last time on the limitations of ID3. So these were the limitations. That first limitation was that it is not going to handle the continuous values. Only the categorical values will be handled. Second was that it cannot handle the incomplete data having the missing values. Third was that it is biased towards someone, towards a feature in the set of attributes which has a large number of values. And the fourth one was the overfitting. And overfitting, because of overfitting there are multiple issues. First of all, it is generalizing the training data very well. So kind of, it is overfitting, it is having more number of, it is having more depth. So in trees, when we say that overfitting is done, generally depth is more in the decision tree, and there is noise in the data set, or so there may be poor accuracy in the test set. And that is one of the technique to understand that yes, if there is less accuracy in the test data and more accuracy in training data, there is something called overfitting in our uh, training. So there are few things to handle this overfitting. These are the two methods. We can do pruning, and pruning can be of two types. It can be pre-pruning or it can be post-pruning. So generally, uh, what does pruning mean? Pruning is removing or rejecting some nodes of the tree. So if you are not considering some of the nodes, uh, it can be done in two ways. Maybe you are not plotting it at all. So let's say that you are avoiding it. So this is the pre-pruning. Stop growing the tree earlier before it reaches the point where it perfectly classifies the training data. So if you think that on the next level of our split, if you think that there will be 100% accuracy, then do not get that. Stop before that. So that is pre-pruning, right? That is avoidance of growing the tree more. Second thing is the post-pruning. Post-pruning means that after the tree is fully grown, then you start removing. Uh, then you start removing some of the nodes and maybe try to remove the overfitting. So let's read what is written here. One second. Yeah. So pre-pruning means that you are avoiding overfitting, avoiding in a way that you are also avoiding the growth of the tree. So stop growing the tree before it reaches the point where it perfectly classifies the training data. And post-pruning means that now you are recovering it, recovering back the better accuracy rather than the overfitting. So allow the tree to overfit once, let it grow fully, let it overfit, and then try to remove some of the nodes, because pruning basic definition is to remove or reject some nodes out of the tree. So although the first of these approaches might seem to be more direct, obviously pre-pruning means that you are not growing it. So if you are not growing it, you will not get the overfitting. So it looks like that it is easier to do, but obviously second approach of post pruning over trees has been found more successful in practice, for the obvious reason: once we have fully grown tree, then it is easier to remove the nodes and get the work done, rather than predicting that if I grow more, there will be overfitting or not. So that kind of prediction is practically sometimes not possible when we have a very big data. So that's why in practice generally post pruning is used. So this is due to the difficulty in the first approach of estimating precisely when to stop growing the tree. So obviously when we are growing the tree, when we are adding more depth into the tree, when we are doing the splits, so we are easily doing the splits by taking the information gain, the maximum value of information gain we get in ID3. We do the split with that attribute, and based on that the decisions are made. And kind of everyone likes that, okay, my model should get 100% accuracy, we should be correctly classifying the things. But then you also need to take care of the overfitting. So on test data, when the challenge comes, the this dotted line, it is clearly showing that compared to your 85% accuracy on training data set, in this case approximately 70% accuracy is being achieved on test data, or maybe less than that. So there is a 15-20% gap here. So this kind of gap we want to avoid, and for avoiding that we need to do this kind of pruning. So these are the two methods. Now how to determine the correct final tree size? So obviously it's fine that we will be growing it and then we will be removing, but when to stop removing? So even if you're doing post pruning, you should be able to predict the thing in a way that you need to stop at a time that it should be a perfect uh, final tree size. You should not prune more. Okay. So regardless of whether the correct size is being found by stopping early or by postponing, following criterion should be followed. First of all, training and validation sets. So use a separate set of examples. Obviously, in our normal machine learning, when we are kind of doing other model trainings, so we have studied Naibase, we have studied KNN, we have seen logistic regression, we have seen linear regression. So in all those cases we have done this kind of split: train, test, and validate. So these were the three splits we have been doing in our practicals also. So for this training and validation set, use a separate set of examples distinct from the training examples to evaluate the utility of post training nodes from the tree. So you should have something different than the training. So obviously validation set is being talked about here, that you should at least get some part of the training data set as a validation and keep it for testing on your end, testing in terms of validation, and then use all the available data for training but apply a statistical test to evaluate, to estimate whether expanding or pruning a particular node is likely to produce an improvement beyond the training point, beyond that training set. Yeah. So obviously you need to keep, I mean, you need to put some of the test, and it can be different tests. So there are multiple statistical tests available in our machine learning. So you can do that kind of test, and you can kind of predict that okay, I need to go beyond this point or no. So expansion or pruning, so this can be I mean, this can be taken decision. So you want to expand the tree or you want to prune the tree, this can be done through the statistical tests also. And the third point is use the measure of complexity for encoding the training examples and the decision tree, halting growth of the tree when the encoding size is minimized. This approach is called minimum description length. So this MDL minimize method, so this is kind of encoding technique. So we will not be going into the practical of it, but you this is kind of an example that okay, there is this third method where we can encode our training examples. You are not directly putting them under the radar, but then you are also converting them into a different encoding and then taking the decision, considering that your minimum description length should be optimized. So this is one of the method, and in this you do the sum of this size of the tree plus size of the misclassification of the tree. So you take this into consideration, that you need to take the size of the tree based on the correct classification as well as the misclassification. So after that, determine the correct final size. So for doing this part, training and validation set, the learner may be misled by random errors and coincidental regularities within the training set. The validation set is unlikely to exhibit some of the random fluctuations. So obviously, when we have this training set, there might be a case that because of noisy data, you have some of the irregularity, or I mean, it is not working according to the way it should be flawless. So for that, validation set will be helpful for us, because it will be unlikely that I mean, it will not have same kind of random fluctuations, because noisy data, if even if there is a noise, it is very less compared to the overall data. So if in case there is some noise in the training data, it is not compulsory, or maybe it will be very low probability that same kind of noise will be in the validation also. So that kind of combination will be very helpful. So we use a validation set to prevent the overfitting using the following technique: reduced error pruning and rule post pruning. So these are kind of the two rules, and let's see the details of it. So reduced error pruning, it was given by Quinlan in 1987, and it considers each of the decision node in the tree to be candidate for pruning. So in this case, the basic thought of, I mean, school of thought is that you can you should consider that every node is a candidate for pruning. So even if it is a leaf node or not, you can remove it. So this is the basic thing that it takes into consideration as a starting point. Then pruning a decision node consists of removing the subtree rooted at that node and making it a leaf node. So it means that let me draw something. Yeah. So it means that if you have this kind of a tree, so it is saying that when you are taking the decision, you need to remove that subtree. So it means that let's say you are removing all of this and then you are converting this tree into only this thing. So this is becoming the leaf node instead of this thing having uh, parent child and then the I mean parent and child nodes. Irrespective of this subtree, you are removing this subtree and just keeping one node. So this is one of the reduced error pruning. I mean, this is being told here. So nodes are removed only if the resulting pruned performs no worse than the original over the validation set. So it is kind of a technique in which we are removing kind of subtrees. So let's say, I mean, in this case, it was, I mean, we removed this part, the right hand side. Let's say if it was like this. So it was having multiple trees, right? So it is having multiple subtrees. Let's say we remove all of this. We remove the right hand side. We will check that what is my performance. So maybe we are removing only this part out of the whole tree. So by removing different subtrees, we will check again and again that how my work is being affected. And reduced error pruning means that obviously you will be you will be doing the pruning for only those which are improving our overall, uh, which are improving our validation sets accuracy. So reduced error pruning has the effect that any leaf node added due to the coincidental regularities in the training set is likely to be pruned. So this technique helps us to kind of remove all those kind of nodes, remove all those kind of leaf nodes that had some of the coincidental regularities and that were kind of reducing our accuracy. So those kind of things are removed with this technique, reduced error pruning. And in this way you can see that on test data set, this was something, this was my test data set. So this lower line is showing the test data, but after pruning it is kind of above. So it is above, right? So there is some kind of improvement compared to our original test data, irrespective of this thing that it is having this kind of same gap in the end. But if you kind of stop early, so if you are kind of also reducing the size of the tree, so let's say that you stop at 60 rather than going till 100, right? If you are having only 60 nodes after removing the subtrees, this gap will be less, right? So this gap will be less compared to the original original test data. So at this point of 60, earlier my test accuracy was around zero point 0.7, but then because of my pruning, I have reached this around 74%. So 4% improvement is there because of pruning. So this is the help that we get through the reduced error pruning. There is one more technique called rule post pruning. So we are discussing these two techniques as one of the method to improve our overfitting. We want to prevent the overfitting on the using the validation set. So reduced error pruning you must have understood. Now moving to the rule post pruning. So in this, we convert the learned tree into an equivalent set of rules by creating one rule for each path from the root node to a leaf node. Uh, so let's see that what's written here. So infer the decision tree from the training set. Okay, so you want to make a decision tree out of the training set and growing the tree until the training data is fit as well as possible and allowing overfitting to occur. So this thing is that allow the tree to fully grow and then also allow the overfitting to come at this thing. But then after this point, you will do conversion of this learned tree into an equivalent set of rules. So you will make some rules by creating one rule for each path from the root node to the leaf node. So you can say that this is a tree, right? So you will make one rule for this path, other rule for this path, and third rule for this path. So for every leaf node, let's say this is leaf node 1, this is node 2, this is leaf node 3, you will have three rules. So this is a set of rule that will help us to get the work done. So prune or generalize each rule by removing any preconditions that result in the improving of its estimated accuracy. So uh, let's say I will give you one example. Is there any example here? Yeah, there is example on the next page. So we will talk about that later on. Let's read this. So prune generalize each rule by removing any preconditions that result in the improving of its estimated accuracy. Sort the pruned rules by their estimated accuracy and consider them in the sequence when classifying the subsequent instances. So you have to sort these pruned rules by their estimated accuracy. So if some rule is having the maximum accuracy, it will be at the top, and then reducing the accuracy one by one. So we will make those kind of things. So now in this, one rule is generated for each leaf node that I have already told you. So each attribute test along the path from the root to the leaf becomes a rule and antecedent precondition. So this is the precondition, and the classification at the leaf node becomes the rule post condition. Okay, so let's see this thing. Let's see example and we will understand more easily. The leftmost path of the tree in the figure. So let's go to slide number 30. So it was this one. Yeah. So we will be talking about these things. Leftmost side. Okay, humidity. Let's see what's written. Yeah. So if outlook is equal to sunny and humidity is equal to high, then play 10 is equal to no. Okay. So this is one of the rule, that if there is a sunny outlook and humidity is high, then you will not play tennis. Let's see. Yeah. So if there is a sunny outlook, humidity is high, you will not play tennis. Right. So this is one rule. So this thing, for this first root, we have made a rule that if outlook equal to sunny and humidity equal to high, then play tennis equal to no. So this was a thing. So this is being talked about in the form of a rule now, rather than that tree, right? So next, each such rule is pruned by removing any antecedent, it means the precondition, whose removal does not worsen its estimated accuracy. Given the above rule, rule post pruning would consider removing the preconditions. So uh, so you are saying outlook equal to sunny and humidity equal to high, and then play 10 is equal to no. So this kind of a thing, is it, it is not given in detail here, so I will give you one more example similar to this. So let's say that outlook is equal to sunny and windy equal to strong, then you will play tennis equal to no. Tennis equal to no, right? So these are the rules, that if outlook equal to sunny and wind equal to strong, tennis is equal to no. And you say outlook equal to sunny and wind equal to weak, so you will say tennis as yes. So these are the two rules. Maybe you can also say outlook equal to overcast. So it simply means that you can remove some of the rules and get the work done if things allow. So in this case, if my outlook equal to overcast, it is yes. So I mean, obviously we have made this after doing the full processing. This is kind of our decision tree. After doing the full processing of ID3, we have gone through the process of selection through the ID3, and information gain helped us to make all the splits. So this is kind of a good decision tree having only depth of 2, right? But there might be a case that there are more different depths, and more cases are there. So in that case, some of the things can be removed and maybe accuracy can be improved. So that kind of a thing is being said. So it would select whichever of these pruning steps produce the greatest improvement in the estimated rule accuracy, and then consider pruning the second precondition as a further pruning step. No pruning step is performed if it reduces the estimated rule accuracy. And advantages are that converting to rule allows the distinguishing among the different contexts in which a decision node is used. So it is helpful if you make this kind of a rule based thing. It helps us to distinguish about the different uh, I mean it also helps us to reduce the readability, and it helps us to distinguish between the outputs. And then converting to rule removes the distinction between the attribute tests that occur near the root of the tree and that occur near the leaves. So this kind of thing, obviously, if the rule is big, right? So the first point means that this first part is happening near the root, the last thing is happening near the leaf. So just by looking at the rule, we can distinguish between the root and the leaf. So it avoids the messy bookkeeping issues, such as to how to recognize the tree if the root node is pruned, while retaining the part of the subtree below this test. So there might be a case that so you are removing the root, then obviously rule will be updated accordingly, and you can uh, I mean just by you looking at this kind of rule, if you remove the root node, then the rule will start from the this point, and this kind of node will be highlighted just by looking at the rule. And converting to rules improve the readability. Obviously we can easily distinguish between the starting point and the end point, and we understand clearly that okay, so this is how the flow is going. Yeah, that's all about this uh, id3 method. And if you have any point, or maybe if you have any confusion in any of the points we have discussed regarding this pruning, you can ask. And if it is if you know everything and you have understood everything, then we can move to C 4.5 algorithm. That is the that is the second type of decision tree. Do you have any doubt in this? We have discussed the pre-pruning and post-pruning, and then we have also discussed about the rule-based pruning and this reduced error pruning. So these are the these are the two methods: rule post pruning and reduced error pruning, for helping to work with the validation set. So these were the 2-3 things that were left in the previous lecture. If you have no doubt, then I will move on to C 4.5 algorithm. Should I move on to the next topic? Irshad, Konark, any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, so I'm moving to the next topic. It's called C 4.5 algorithm. This is one of the decision tree again, and we have seen it earlier. When I started the decision tree, I told you that there are 3 types of decision trees. The first one was the ID3, second one is C 4.5, and the third one is the cart model. And we will be discussing all of them one by one. So there are there are other methods also. There are some other improvements of the C 4.5. There is C 5.0 also, but then we will discuss only C 4.5. We will not go into the more different variations of it. Just to give you the idea, these 3 are more than enough. So let's start the C 4.5. C 4.5, it is extension of ID3 algorithm. It is again proposed by Quinlan. Quinlan gave the ID3 method, and then he improved the ID3 and gave this C 4.5 after 1 or 2 years. And then it can handle the problems the ID3 had. So mainly ID3 could handle only the discrete data, right? Only the classes. Uh, I mean, so yeah, it could not handle the continuous data, right? If you remember correctly, we can do the classification through that. We can say that yes or no, the decision was taken to play the golf or not, play the tennis or not. But it could not handle the continuous data. We could not do the prediction for continuous data in the ID3 method. That has been that has been overcome by the C 4.5 method. C 4.5 can do both kind of predictions, the discrete prediction as well as the continuous data prediction. And it can also handle the issue of incomplete data. So if there is any missing data, C4.5 can handle that. So these were the few problems. There was also problem that there was biasing, right? But in this case, there is no bias towards the feature with high number of distinct values. And this algorithm, this C4.5, will employ single pass pruning process to mitigate the overfitting. So these are the few points uh, that are the main highlights of C4.5. First of all, it can handle the both continuous and the discrete data. Second thing is it can handle the missing values. Third thing, it is not biased towards someone who is having more number of instances. Fourth point, it will employ the single pass pruning process to mitigate the overfitting. So overfitting will be handled easily using this single pass pruning process. And the formula for this thing, C4.5, is dependent on this gain ratio. And in this gain ratio, we are using the information gain that we were using earlier also. Information gain and entropy were used uh, in our ID3, but then this one more thing has been added here, split info. So the ratio of information gain and the split info will give me the gain ratio, and this gain ratio will be used to take the decision that which attribute will become the root while doing the split. So let's see ID3 algorithm, ID3 algorithms information gain metric. It is biased uh, towards a feature with large number of distinct values. Obviously that was a problem. We saw that there is a problem that whenever there is a attribute having large number of use cases, if a particular class is having more number of examples in that in the whole data set, that kind of overshadowed or bias are modeled in case of ID3. And for that, this limitation of ID3 is being handled by normalizing the information gain metric using a parameter called split info. So split info is being used to handle this biased problem. Split info will help us to handle this information gain, and this is the base concept that just for handling that bias thing, you added the split info and the work was done. So let's see that what does it mean. Now gain ratio formula is information gain upon split info. Information gain, we all know, overall entropy minus my sum of all the different classes into entropy of that class. So let's say that there were two classes. So class 1 entropy multiplied by class 1 upon total number of cases, and that was summed over different classes, let's say two classes or three classes, and then it was subtracted from the total entropy. That was information gain. But now the split info is a formula in which we are doing this thing again. We are taking the log, right? So the log base 2 is being used to I mean to handle this, to do the normalization in this information gain problem. Information gain had this problem of biasing, so that is being handled by using this split info, which has a formula of summation, sum of all the first of all ratio sv upon s. Sv is the it is the set of rows in S for which the feature column A has a value V. Obviously, it means that all the cases having similar kind of a class, let's say class 1 or class 2. So class wise, it will be uh, the number of rows divided by the total number of rows, right? SV is the total number of rows in the SV, and likewise S is the number of rows in S. So generally, I mean, uh, it is very easy to understand. It's about implementation, more of implementation. It's just that you are doing the normalization by dividing your information gain. So this is doing the normalization. So now C4.5 handling the continuous values. So let's do the continuous values thing, and then we will go to the discrete values. First, how to handle the continuous values. So C4.5 will partition the continuous attribute value into a discrete set of intervals. So we will do it through discrete intervals. It says that we should perform the binary split based on the threshold value. So we will let's say that you have to do a split uh, for different data, maybe let's say 75, 65, 55, maybe 80 and 78, and let's say that you want to do the split. So first of all, you should uh, kind of put it in the increasing order. So it will be 55, 65, 75, 78, and 80, and then you will take one number out of it. Let's say you will take, I mean, because it is saying that we have to do the binary split, we will say that I am taking a split at 65. So if it is less than equal to 65, it will be on the left hand side. I mean, if this condition is yes, so it will be having this 55 and 65 on one side, and if it is not less than equal to 65, all the other numbers 75, 78, and 80 will be on the other side. So this kind of binary split will be used to handle continuous values also. So the threshold should be a value which offers the maximum gain ratio. So we will check at all points that which one is having the maximum gain ratio, and then it will be used to do the split. So let's see what the algorithm says. So check for the base cases. So initially 3-4 steps of ID3 will be same. We will be doing all kinds of pre-processing that we did in ID3. Then for each attribute A, find the normalized gain ratio. From splitting on A, you will find this normalized gain ratio, and then let A best. So which one? So the number which will be best, it will be used. It will be the attribute with the highest normalized information gain. Create a decision node that splits on A best, and record on the sublist obtained by splitting on A best, and add those nodes as a children of node. So let's see the example. You will understand it more easily now. So let's say this is the example where we want to predict that we want to play tennis or not. So yes or no is there. Again, outlook, temperature, humidity, and windy are the four features that are being used. So outlook is having the uh, kind of discrete values, right? So sunny, overcast, rain. So these are the three things. It can be classified into 1, 2, 3, and this false and true again 0 and 1. So no, no, yes again 0, 1. But these are the continuous features. Here, temperature and humidity are the continuous features. So consider the data set that informs about decision making to play tennis at outside for previous 14 days. The dataset is similar to the ID3 dataset. The difference is that temperature and humidity have the continuous values instead of the nominal ones. Earlier we were saying that it is a high temperature, mid temperature, low temperature. Humidity was again high, mid, low. So those things have been changed into the numbers. So these are the continuous values having different range of numbers. Is, I mean, clearly it is visible in this temperature that 64 is the smallest number in this column, and for humidity the smallest number is around, yeah, again 65. So these are the smallest, and obviously the largest will also be taken into the account. So 85 is highest temperature here, and in this case I guess 95 is my highest humidity. No, 96 is the highest humidity. So yeah, I mean, these kind of things will matter. So let's do the computation. So first we have to calculate the entropy. Entropy's formula remains the same. So positive cases are 9, negative cases are 5. So 5 by 14 and 9 by 14, but entropy comes out to be 0.940. It is exactly same that came during the ID3. Now you want to do the calculation of gain ratio. Earlier we were only I mean, thinking about the information gain. So we stopped that calculation in the ID3 at this point, having this 0.247 value. Information gain was calculated. So this is the exactly same numerical. All the values are same based on the ID3. So we are doing the calculation. We are calculating the entropy for outlook equal to sunny, then rainy, the overcast. Then we are doing the average. So average was calculated by doing this thing. I mean, so 2 plus 3, 3 plus 2 by 9 plus 5. So all these kind of things were done. And then obviously split info is the new variable that is being added here, and split info formula was this thing. Yeah, this minus of SV upon S into log 2 SV upon S summation. So this was the formula, and for calculating that we will do this thing. So minus of 2 plus 3 upon 9 plus 5 into log to this, minus 3 plus 2 upon this, plus 4 plus 0. So I think this will be minus. So you will be again doing the minus. So this will get us some value of the split info, and then gain ratio will be calculated by doing this thing. Information gain divided by split info. This is the value 0.155 for the outlook. So this 0.155 is the value of the outlook having the gain ratio. Then you will do for wind. Wind will get me the this gain ratio of 0.049. So similarly, I mean, for getting all of these things, so I mean, based on the data set, outlook, outlook, and wind. So these were the two discrete values data set. So for that we needed to make these tables and do those kind of things. And I mean, now for handling this humidity, now this is my continuous data. This is not classification, this is not discrete value, this is continuous data, and for this the style will be different. We are not making tables here. Let's see what we need to do. So humidity is a continuous attribute, and we need to convert the continuous to nominal ones. First we need to sort. Obviously, I told you earlier also, we need to sort, and all the values are being sorted here. 65 is the smallest value, and 96 is the largest value. Now we need to iterate on all the humidity values and separate dataset into two parts as instances less than or equal to a current value and instances greater than the value. I mean, again that thing is being talked about, that I told you that maybe 75 is being selected, so less than equal to 75 will be if it is yes, all these cases, all the first five cases will go on the left hand side, and all the other cases will go on the right hand side, right? If it is no, it will go on the no side. So it depends that which number we are selecting. So let's see that how to do this. Now check the 65 as a threshold. So if you consider that 65 uh, is being selected, so 65 was the smallest number, right? So 65 was the smallest number, and in this case we had a yes, right? And from that point of view, if I make a table for humidity less than equal to 65, yes is 1 and no is 0. Obviously there was only one case, and in that case we had a 1 yes and 0 no, and all other 13 were 8 yes and 5 no's. So this is a very small table that has been generated, and this table will be used to calculate the gain ratio now. So for this 65 we are getting the gain ratio of 0.126, and this 0.126, the statement humidity less than equal to 65 refers to that what would branch of it decision tree be for less than or equal to 65 and greater than 65. So it does not refer to the humidity is not equal to 65. Yeah, so it means that we are taking a decision that what will happen if my branch is less than equal to 65 and greater than. So we are dividing that tree, right, based on this value. So for all other values the calculation has already been done for you, for 70, for 75, for 78, for all the unique values without any repetition. So obviously 70 was a repetition, so this 80 was a repetition, 90 was a repetition. So all the unique values, 65 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So total 9 values were unique, and for all of them we have to calculate the threshold value. So for 65 it came out to be 0.126, and for all the other values till 96, uh, first of all till 95, all the 8 values, all the 7 values, we got this thing. But now 96 is being ignored because humidity cannot be greater than this value. uh, Obviously according to this data set the value is not greater than 96. So so we will not go beyond that point. That's what is written here, that it cannot be greater than this value according to this data set. As seen, gain maximizes when the threshold value is equal to 65. So if you see at all the gain ratio values out of this array, 65 had this 0.126. So 0.126 was for 65, right? So for 65 we had 0.126 and all the other values were less than that. So 65 was the best one, right? So this means that we need to compare the other nominal attributes and compared of humidity to 65 to create a branch in our tree. So now what needs to be done is, uh, when for the humidity we will be doing the split at 65. Now again you have temperature, you have this temperature. You can first of all you will need to do it, you need to convert the table into the increasing order, right? And after that you will take different values. You will use 68 and For 68 you are getting 0.035, and for all other values you will get some other values. I mean, let's see. Similarly, the process will be repeated for all the unique values of temperature, and we will get the maximum gain ratio for 83. So I mean, all the values are not written here, but then if you calculate all of them using your programming or something, you will find that after doing the calculation, 83 is the one which is having the maximum gain ratio. So the decision has been taken that you will convert these features according to this thing: humidity greater than 65 and temperature greater than 83. And this classification will be then binary. You have converted your original continuous dataset into binary dataset by taking this decision that you have to make this decision that temperature is 83 or I mean less than that. So no, yes, no, yes. So all of them are there. And again, for humidity, if it is greater than 65, it will be yes. If it is not greater than 65, it will be no. So in that case, only one case was less than 65 and other all were yes. So this is the final data set, and now you have to make the decisions. So if you calculate the gain ratio for all the attributes, these are the four gain ratios. Obviously here the best one is the temperature. So temperature attribute comes with both maximized gain and gain ratio. So this means that we need to put temperature at the root. So when you calculate all the gain ratios for all the attributes, for all the four attributes, when you calculate it, you will find that temperature is having the maximum gain ratio. Temperature has to become the root node. So if temperature is my root node, uh, so what will be happening is, so for each value of temperature greater than 83, yes and no, a branch will be added and the C4.5 algorithm will be applied for instances corresponding to it. And temperature greater than 83, yes or no, right? So for no, all the cases will be taken. For yes, all the cases will be taken. So let's see the data set. If you see the temperature data set, greater than 83 was only this case 85. All other were less than equal to 83. That's why 13 cases are having a no, and only one case is having a yes. So that's what is being done here. You can see that only one case is being yes here. Greater than की बात हो रही है. So only one case is there which was having temperature of 85, and all other values were no. So according to that, this table has been made. Now let's continue. So this is the final decision tree, that if temperature is greater than 83 equal to no, then these are the conditions, right? And if my it will be till here, and if it is equal to yes, return no. So this is the decision tree. And I mean, in this case, this kind of tree has not been made, uh, but then you have been given the if else code, which is very easy to understand. So now let's talk about the pruning. Let's discuss a bit of it, and then I will close the session. Pruning in C4.5 algorithm. C4.5 algorithm employs the single pass statistical testing for pruning. It makes use of the pessimistic error rate based on the confidence intervals. So this is the pessimistic error estimate. So this is the formula that you need to understand. Here we have the Z value, which is derived from the desired confidence value. If C is greater than C is equal to 25%, then Z is equal to 0.69. So you can find this in the Z table, that if C equal to 25%, the Z value is 0.69 in that. And F is the error on the training data, and N is the number of instances covered by the leaf. So this is the this formula for pessimistic error estimate will be used to make the decision while pruning, right? So this error will be equal to F, which is error on the training data, plus Z square upon 2n plus Z into square root of F by n minus F square by n plus Z square by 4n square. So all the variables have been explained here. Z is my Z is Z has been got from the Z score table, and based on the confidence value, you can find the value of Z, and then F is the error on the training data, N is the number of instances. So yeah, it is pessimistic error rate based on the confidence intervals. It can be computed like this. So after this, now error estimate for a subtree is weighted sum of error estimates for all its leaves. A node is pruned if error estimate of subtree is lower than the error estimate of the node. So now you need to take the call that when do you want to remove that node. So consider this unpruned subtree. Uh, so wage increase greater than 2.5, less than 2.5, working hours less than 36, greater than 36, health plan none, half full. So these are kind of the uh, this is kind of a subtree where it is written that for none the positive values are 4, the no values are 2. Again, if half is there, 1 yes, 1 no, 4 yes, 2 no for full. So these are the kind of this is the kind of table that has been given in front of us. This is a tree, so where plus means the correct classification and minus means the incorrect classification. So out of this 6 cases, 4 were correctly classified, 2 were not classified correctly, and similarly here, one classified correctly, one not. So this is a unpruned subtree. Now you need to take the decision that you want to prune it or not. Now we target the health plan node near the bottom of the tree for pruning. First, we calculate the average estimated upper error rate for the unpruned tree. Now for health plan equal to none. For health plan equal to none means this case we had 4 correct classifications and 2 not incorrect. So what's being done is, yeah, f equal to 2 by 6, n equal to 6. So number of cases were 6, f equal to 2 by 6. F was the error. Now 2 were not correctly classified and 4 were correctly classified. So f equal to 2 by 6, n equal to 6. And for so upper p estimate is 0.46. That can be got from the Z table. You can calculate the value using the formula, and Z is equal to 0.69 for 75th percentile estimate, and this is the value that we are getting for this kind of a value for f equal to 2 by 6 and n by 6, n equal to 6. So if health plan is equal to half, my for health equal to half, health plan equal to half, one was incorrect, one was correct. So error is 1 by 2 and number of cases are 2, and in this case upper p estimate is 0.74. For health plan equal to full, again in this case 2 are incorrect classifications, 4 are correctly classified. So 2 by 6 is my error, 2 by 6, number of cases 6, again the value is 0.46, like this. Now you need to do the average, and for average you need to, obviously weightage will be taken. So while doing the average, you will take care of this thing that these are the 6 cases, these are 2 cases, and these are again 6 cases. So 6 by 14, 2 by 14, 6 by 14. So this is the average, right? So 6 to 6 is the ratio, and based on that, if you put these values in the formula in the weighted average, you will get that the average upper error rate is 0.55. Obviously you have to use the weighted average, and this kind of thing can be solved. Obviously it can be done by 6 into, let's say, 0.46 plus 2 into 0.74 plus 6 into 0.46 divided by 14. You will get 0.55 by solving this. So this is kind of a average, right? Weighted average. Now on the other hand, if the tree were pruned by replacing the health plan node by a leaf of 9 plus and 5 minus, the confidence interval will be like this, that 5 by 14 is the non-classified, not correctly classified, and equal to 14, then the value will be 0.49. So if the pruning was done, so the difference is that without any kind of pruning you are getting an estimate of 0.55, but after the pruning you are getting the estimate of 0.49. Since the pruned tree results in a lower upper estimate for the error rate, the leaves are indeed pruned. So the sentence is not correctly made, but the meaning is that by using the pruning you are getting a less error, right? So 0.49 is less than 0.55. That's why we will do the pruning. So this was the main idea behind it, that you will make a pruning decision based on this kind of calculation, that without any kind of pruning, if you get the, if whatever the error you get here, if it is less than the error we get at this point, but in this case obviously this one was lower, but if the previous one was lower, we would not have done any kind of pruning. Now, because that was greater than this error, this one is lower. That's why we have done the pruning. So that is the main thing. So that's all for this C 4.5. Let's meet in the next lecture and we will discuss if you have any doubts because the time is up. Okay. So I'm leaving the session now. You can also leave and go to the next class. Thank you.